There's a tidbit of interesting history between the Young Turks and I. Back in September, when Nicole Arbour was the focus of the full force of the internet's outrage, the Young Turks wrongfully quoted me as a fat shamer.
And then there are people backing her, apparently YouTuber Skag3, whoever he is, says about overweight people, they're being rude to themselves and their loved ones by making no attempt to better themselves. Hey, prick, save your judgment for people who give a shit. Right?
The only problem is I never said any of that, and only after 2 days of pestering them on Twitter to correct the record, after they defamed me to thousands of people, did they delete the video. Did they make a video correction? Did they just put a note in the description of the video that might as well read, "This video is based on 100% false premises and misinformation"? But that gives you an idea of the importance of factual accuracy over at the Young Turks. Simply start with a preconceived conclusion, find a few pieces of information to support it, and boom, there's your show. Comprehensive and contextual understanding be damned. I haven't followed the Young Turks since, and why would I? Their product has the journalistic integrity of the National Enquirer, edited by Brian Williams.
I made a mistake. I want to apologize. This was a bungled attempt by me.
But I was linked on Twitter to a segment of theirs, outraged by a sentiment expressed by former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani in a CNN interview with Chris Cuomo.
Radical Muslims believe that the death penalty is the correct punishment for gays and lesbians. And when Anderson before, who I thought had some very beautiful remarks, talked about people, people argue over gay marriage in the United States and things like that. Well, look, we argue about gay marriage in the United States. There's nobody in the United States who argues for death for homosexuals in the United States. So this is a very, very different culture.
Yeah, no, it's true.
And we're at a very different level of civilization. And somebody should point out the superiority of our civilization to the barbarians that we're facing.
And it's a perfectly reasonable, supportable, defensible claim. In fact, I made a very similar claim on my podcast Sunday night. I shouldn't feel any shame in saying, guess what? I could say America or Western culture in general, we do it right.
Right.
Okay. We do it better. Our culture is better. Sorry, it is. Western secular culture is better than Islamic culture. It's a blunt observation, but not one that should be controversial, which is why Mr. Cuomo responded to Mr. Giuliani as follows.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why we have these discussions. You know me well enough to, Mr. Mayor, no, I have no argument with you.
But reason, objectivity, and honesty have no place on the Young Turks network, and so the hosts began an irrational echo chamber dispute with the idea that Western culture is indeed better than Islamic culture. What are you doing? Oh, I'm just buckling up for the car crash.
He has no argument with him. Oh, that's good to know. Good on the record. What? Yeah, Chris Cuomo was making the good point that when you are so quick to, like, their goal when something like this happens is to identify it as this is the result of Islam, even though it seems very clear in this case that this is the result of a person who was taught by his religion and culture to hate the fact that he was gay. That you would never identify an Italian killing someone as radical Italian murder or something like that.
Islamism is a political ideology. Italianism is a nationality, an ethnicity. One is an idea, one is people. Explaining that distinction to regressives is like explaining the age of consent to Jared Fogle. It could not be clearer, but they just don't get it.
You know, I've had this conversation with other people. You know, it's that our culture is better than yours, looking down the nose. Our culture is better because we don't throw gays off of roofs in our culture. I went to a Trump rally last week.
Yeah.
They want to.
Oh yeah.
They're the reason why we don't throw gays off the roofs in the United States is because we had to wrestle the culture away from those motherfuckers, which is about half of them that do want to do that.
Well, that's quite the claim, but you're a man in media. I assume if that sentiment was being expressed commonly, you probably recorded it. Okay, well, if it's common sentiment, surely there's some publication somewhere that documents it. Okay, well, even if I grant the idea that Trump supporters want to throw gays off of buildings, is wanting to do it but refraining really as bad as following through with the act itself? Fine. Thoughts are as bad as actions.
Noam Chomsky just said the biggest terrorist. Who's the biggest terrorist program in the world? It's our drone program. That's the best. So, you don't think our drone program is horrible? You don't think we have religious people starting wars, killing hundreds of thousands of people, ordering torture to cover it up?
I'll grant you the idea that the U.S. has made some bad foreign policy moves, but our laws and our culture allow us to correct bad policy through a democratic system. For example, if you go to your congressperson or your senator and you say, "Sir or ma'am, I think we are making serious foreign policy mistakes," he or she will say, "Okay, let's discuss." If you walk into an ISIS office and you say, "Sir or ma'am," oh wait, there are no ma'ams here. "Sir, I'd like to discuss some serious foreign policy mistakes you're making," he would say, "Okay, let's get you to the gallows."
We just had Kim Davis having a rally with the Republican presidential campaign hopefuls about how much they can discriminate and take rights away from gay people. So fuck you about how somehow you're better, Rudy Giuliani, than anybody else. You are a cretin.
Yeah.
There's lots wrong with you.
So, debating the rights of gay people is the same as criminalizing their very existence. I'd like to take a poll of the LGBT community, a little game of would you rather. Would you rather live in a free society with the one caveat that you can't get legally married, or would you rather take an elevator ride with Jihadi John? Get in! The view is amazing up there. I'm admittedly just speculating here, but I don't think you'd see a common answer of no preference.
In our culture right now, we have elected officials poisoning children with lead in the water on purpose for money. That's how much better our culture is than someone else who's a barbarian. But in the light of day, knowingly, for months, if not years, we directly, on purpose, poison children who are poor in one of our American cities so somebody can make political points and make more money.
You're comparing a breakdown of our system to a tenet of the Islamic system, an accidental outlier to a foundational belief. What happened in Flint was neither intentional nor desirable and is therefore being corrected. You would have a valid comparison if what happened in Flint was part of the founding principles of our society. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Oh, and also Congress shall definitely try to poison the kids with lead-tainted water as frequently as possible. Oh, so that's where he got it.
Somehow Rudy Giuliani, one of the scumbags of the world, goes on CNN and says anybody else is worse than him?
Well, here's the great irony, young Turks. Your show's existence is demonstration that Western culture is better. The fact that you have a show of a critical nature is because our culture values the freedom of speech. And perhaps you consider that value, or any of the values espoused and protected by the Bill of Rights, to be subjective or relative. But what's not subjective are the results a society founded on those principles produces. Let's take any objective measure you like. GDP. I see a lot of Western nations leading that list and a lot of Islamic ones on the bottom. Education. I see a lot of Western nations leading that list and a lot of Islamic ones on the bottom. Life expectancy. I see a lot of Western nations leading that list and a lot of Islamic ones on the bottom. But surely Islamic culture leads in something though, right? Oh, suicide bombings, yeah. See, their culture's no better or worse, just different. I propose we crowdfund a trip for the Young Turks to broadcast from the Islamic State. Better catch it live though. The show might not be up for long. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at @skag_3. You're always welcome to come hang out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Okay, bye.